Wake up. Wake up. It's Friday. It's Friday, February the 6th, the final Friday before Super Bowl 60. We got a lot to get to. Damon's at Radio Row. I'm here in the studio. Let's go.
Oh, welcome indeed. I mean, you can feel it in the air. It's official now. You know, you get down here on a Monday, Larry, and it feels like the Super Bowl's coming. On Friday, it basically feels like it's standing on top of your chest. Here we go. I'm excited to get it done with in terms of all of our media commitments down here and Media Row. I've got one more show after this, 2 more guest appearances, 1 more Super Bowl party, and then I'm officially going to be ready for kickoff, and I know you are too, man. Good to see you. I know you've been crushing it all week long. Thanks to everyone for being here. Hit like and subscribe. Feels like football season's almost over. I'm a little sad. I got to be honest with you.
Did you, I talked to Lee Steinberg yesterday. I'm going to his party on Saturday.
That's the party we're going to. Yeah, I'll see you there.
Yeah, seriously. We got a guy who was like really passionate about Damon and I being at this party. So much so that I think I may have to hire security just to keep myself from him. No, I'm just joking.
We're going to have to mace Randy Gordon at some point in this party. I'm pretty sure of it, Larry. What a great guy, though. What a really nice guy.
My +1, though, am I bringing Kev? I don't know. He's playing golf. Am I bringing my wife? I don't know. She's not a Super Bowl party kind of a gal. I might have to get a date.
I'm bringing Jillian. Jillian's coming with me. So, maybe that twists Amy's arm. She'll have someone to hang out with.
Yeah. Or maybe that would just maybe I'll get a really, really great date. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But of course, on the Krueger Show, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out. So get there early. Get some brisket. Check them out in Petaluma in 2026. Also, thanks to Sleeper. The link's in the description. The code is Larry, and they'll match you up to $100. So thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show all season long. And congratulations, man, out of the chute to our friend Roger Craig, because last night, the NFL Honors Show, I did watch it, and you know what? I was hoping for the Roger Craig Frank Gore combo. It didn't happen for Frank. That's okay. It's his first year of eligibility. But it was I thought the biggest thing of the night in some ways was Roger Craig getting in the Hall of Fame. You could see what it meant to him. His teammates were there, Charles Haley, Steve Young. Just a beautiful moment, man. I seriously, when they announced Roger Craig, Hall of Famer, I literally put my arms up in the air like that, and I got chills. And I tweeted that out, just chills. And Randy Cross, one of his teammates, retweeted that. I think everybody in the Niner family or anybody associated in any way with the Niner family, and that would include me and you. You know what? Just a great day for a great man. And you know what? The Niner dynasty was a little bit underrepresented. Roger belonged in there. These people that are stat nerds who are just like, you know what? He doesn't belong. You didn't watch it. You didn't realize the impact of what you were watching. If you did watch it, he's one of 3 guys to go 1,000. And the rules have all been changed, Damon, to favor offense, and yet nobody's really getting 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in the same season. It's a mark that has stood the test of time, and because of it, I think it's his loudest argument for this guy belongs in the Hall, and I'm thrilled that he's there.
Absolutely, Larry. Before I get into Roger, let me thank Ike of Ike Sandwiches, who you
saw Ike this weekend.
He'll be here at about 11 o'clock with 3 trays of sandwiches. And by the way, if you're thinking of getting Ike's Catering for the big game, use code SAVE49. You save $49 off of every order of $250 or more of Ike's Catering.
Very cool.
And if you want to talk about swarming the football, the way that Ike gets swarmed with people looking for sandwiches when he gets here is just fantastic. Thanks to our good friends at the Dubliner West Portal as well. And again, Sleeper, thank you very much for being a great sponsor all year. Okay. the craziest thing about Roger Craig is that, it's not like people didn't know. What is apparent is people didn't understand, because that team is one of the all-timers. And Larry, on your recommendation, when on Monday Greg Papa joined us and you guys touted the AMC documentary, I've watched all 4 episodes. First of all, great documentary. Spectacular. It's just so well done. It is nostalgia on steroids. It is just fantastic. The music, the everything. The cutaways to Huey Lewis, for goodness sakes. I mean, all of it works. And then all of that behind the scenes footage that we had never quite seen before, because they had a level of access to NFL films. And here's the funny thing. I even thought Roger Craig was almost underrepresented in that. For someone who is so impactful on such a dynastic team, how he always managed to be under the radar, I think maybe is a testament to his professionalism, to his lack of looking for the attention or the applause or the accolades. Sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Roger Craig never squeaked once in his life. And I think that's part of the reason why his name slipped through the cracks. And then obviously there were a group of media members and voters that just sort of lost him to time. And it's really odd that happened, because if there's anything you're supposed to do as either a lowercase j journalist like we are, or the guys who claim to be uppercase j journalists who actually vote for the Hall of Fame, you're supposed to be the ones who offer up the understanding. In my entire life, I've always thought that Roger Craig was, the evolutionary thing where you got the primordial ooze and the amoeba coming out of the ocean, and then it becomes, a little bit more of skeletal. Then you go from Homo erectus to Homo sapien, and the evolutionary. If we are talking about the position of running back, Roger
Craig, very deep.
But this is why it bothers me that he was overlooked. This is a man who you cannot tell the story of the evolution of the position of running back without getting to, in the first couple of chapters, there have been better running backs. There have been more talented players, but there has never been anyone who has advanced the position from what it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust to what it is today. You don't get to Christian McCaffrey and Marshall Faulk without Roger Craig. He is someone who was lost to time, and I'm glad he has been found. It took a little too long. And unfortunately for Roger, the year that he gets in is the same year that the NFL's Hall of Fame lost a ton of credibility with its oversight and overlook of Bill Belichick for whatever reason.
Well,
but it's a wonderful moment for Roger.
Yeah.
That what it means to him.
They're not really related.
I think.
Let's just say this.
No, they're
Roger.
not. But
let's just say this about Roger, because I'm looking at a guy right now on Twitter who's disparaging him. There's a guy right now who said Roger Craig never led the NFL in rushing yards, touchdowns, yards per carry, or any other major stat. He did lead the NFL once in yards from scrimmage in 1988, and he had just one All-Pro season. That's the guy's entire tweet. He's basically just ripping Roger Craig. Damon,
well, again,
I don't understand why this is so hard to understand. I don't understand why this is so hard to get. Take a look. I'm going to share the screen real quick, and I'm going to share the screen and show you just something basic, and that is the 49ers offensive stats for this year. Okay? Here's their offensive stats for this season. Why am I showing this? I'm showing this because Christian McCaffrey had an amazing year, right? He was up for Offensive Player of the Year. And yet, he had that awesome year. Look at the receipt, so you have Kittle, who's a great player at tight end. You have CMC, who's a great player at running back. Look what the Niners did at receiver. They had 1 touchdown from Demarcus Robinson, 2 from McCaffrey, who's not a receiver. So they had 3 receiving touchdowns. 3, as in me, you, and one other person. 3 receiving touchdowns all year. Well, that's what happens when you have CMC and Kittle. Roger Craig is he's a product of playing with the greatest statistical entity the sport has ever seen. I mean, you know it. You walk into a locker room after the end of a game, if there is a 200-yard receiver, you could almost bank that there's not a 100-yard rusher. If there's a 150-yard rusher, you could almost bank that there's not a 100-yard receiver. It's hard to spread the ball around. Jerry was motivated by insecurity, and so the Niners just fed him because they knew he needed it. Roger was much more of like a team guy who, not that Jerry wasn't a team guy, but Roger was the ultimate team guy. Didn't care if he got a yard or 100 yards. Didn't care if he got a touch or 100 touches. Didn't care. And that personality made him a perfect fit to play with Jerry. They never really fought over the ball. You can go through all of the years of Niners ball where they overlapped. There's not one quote from Roger saying, damn it, Jerry's getting the ball too much and I'm not getting the ball enough. He wasn't that kind of a guy. So it was just easier to feed Jerry's ego and feed him the ball. And he was that dominant. There was nothing disparaging about Jerry. He was motivated. He needed those balls. He needed those catches. He needed those touches. Roger just needed the W. Walsh knew it. Seifert knew it. His teammates knew it. Because of that, it's not just Roger's numbers. Brent Jones's numbers, Ricky Waters' numbers, John Taylor's numbers. Virtually every major offensive weapon outside of Joe who played with Rice, numbers were suppressed because of Rice. And I think if you understand that, you understand that Rodgers his value and his impact go far beyond his numbers.
Look, Larry, the documentary on AMC also really frames how important and how used Dwight Clark was in that offense. I mean, you had Jerry Rice and Dwight Clark taking away from Roger Craig opportunities. They also do a great job kind of just explaining that the 49ers short passing game was their running game. And it was a running game in disguise in a way. Look, to the person who constructed the tweet that was trying to explain what Roger wasn't statistically, let me offer you one thing that he also is. He is a member of an all-decade team. One of the hardest decades. Two all-decade teams. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen because you're a less-than player. That happens because you're a winning player who made winning plays in the biggest of situations. And it's funny, I heard somebody say, Roger Craig, the fumble, and I'm still mad at him. I hope he doesn't get into the Hall of Fame. I was like, what? Come on. But, look, Roger Craig is such an important piece to the 49ers, to football history. He can stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest of all time. When you're an all-decade team, go through the all-decade teams and ask how many of these guys are in the Hall of Fame.
They're all in the Hall of Fame.
In the 80s all-decade team. Well, the only guy who isn't from the 80s decade team are Joe Jacoby of the Washington Redskins. He's a 3-time finalist, though, and Bill Fralick of the Atlanta Falcons.
But all the running backs.
We're talking about tackles and guards.
All the running backs on these teams are all in.
Peyton Dickerson, Roger Craig, John Riggins. There's your all-decade backfield in the 80s. And if you needed someone to go out in a pattern, there was only one of those guys you're sending out in a pattern, and it was Roger Craig. He is an important piece to the history of the Niners, to the history of the sport of football, and I'm very, very happy that he's being enshrined in the Hall of Fame. I know that this is something that Mark Adams, has taken upon himself to do an awful lot of stumping for Roger. I've been a part of that. You've been a part of that, Larry. I know that you said that you're going to try to go
actually the origin of that. I'm the origin of that. Basically, Mark Adams called me after I did a pregame show with John Lund and Dennis Brown, where I asked John and Dennis if it would be okay if I used one segment of the pregame show to make the case for Roger for the Hall. And of course, Dennis, being a former player, and John, who's, first class all the way, were like, absolutely, do it. So I had found a couple different articles, and I had kind of summarized these articles and came up with like 50 bullet points. And it was like this kind of stuff, Damon. It was like Roger Craig has more receiving yards than Hall of Fame receivers Lynn Swann and Andre Reed. Roger Craig has more rushing yards than Hall of Famers Ollie Matson, Earl Campbell, Larry Zonka. You know what I mean? It was all those kinds of things. And,
right.
And it was
he's got more rings than all of them.
he, just laid out his case, right? And then I laid out a couple of my own thoughts as I just shared with you on Rice, and we talked about a number of different things. Anyway, Mark contacted me after the show and was like, dude, I'm so inspired by the case that you just put out there that I'm going to take that pen, if you could give me your notes, I'm going to take that case and see if I can, talk to some of the players and coaches and see if we can get this groundswell of support for Roger. And I'm like, absolutely, let's do it. Mark then went and interviewed Eddie D, Joe, Steve, Ronnie, Brent Jones, all these guys, and presented and did like video, like a vlog basically, and it's on his X thing, and I also retweeted it within the last day, so you can check it out. And it's basically just videos of these guys talking about what a great player Roger was, and not just Niner players. I think he might have gotten Carl Banks in there from the New York Giants. So he had other guys in there, and he made an incredible, compelling case. And somehow that video got to Mayoko, and somehow it was translated either directly or indirectly to the Hall of Fame committee. And, I didn't know this was going anywhere, to be honest, Damon. This kind of came out of nowhere. But I think they really tried to make a push for Roger because the game is here. They know how rightful it is that he belongs there. I didn't care how he got there, just that he got there. And I know for a fact that Walsh would have had him in a decade ago, or at least 5 years ago, if he had lived. And also I know for a fact that the Niner dynasty, compared to the Patriot dynasty, Steeler dynasty, Packer dynasty, whatever dynasty you want to point to, is a little bit underrepresented, to be completely honest, in the Hall of Fame. And there are others, by the way, Jesse Sapolu, Randy Cross, Michael Carter. Michael Carter's the greatest nose guard that ever played. And he was also an Olympic silver medalist. Michael Carter was a very, very special player. And for whatever reason, time has forgotten him. But yeah, the Niners needed to get Roger in for sure. And I'm thrilled today that he's in. And I'm going to show you this before you go. Here we go. Here's Roger getting the actual call. Here it is.
Ronnie Lott, yeah.
How awesome is that?
Welcome to the 2026 Hall of Fame, bro. These guys help me out all the time, So, being in the Hall of Fame with them, I'm so amazed.
Yeah, so happy for the guy. So happy. Great moment. I love that David Baker, who who runs the Hall of Fame, I love that he, under his guidance, they've kind of grown this thing, Damon, to they show us the intros and they spend a little time in their homes. And to me, that just makes it all, it just brings the whole thing to life. And it really shows, these guys are they did this, they played this game for a long time. There was a lot of trade-offs. They were totally willing to trade everything that they traded for their careers. But man, this is the ultimate moment. And, you saw guys who don't get, Drew Pearson went bananas a few years ago because he didn't get in. I'm just so glad Roger Craig never had to do that. He never once had to be like, hey, what the heck? What about me? And it's just,
well, that's the thing.
He's graceful as a player, and he's graceful in his entrance.
Yeah, and that speaks to maybe one of the reasons why it took so long to get him in, because again, squeaky wheels sometimes get the grease. Yes. Roger didn't squeak one bit, not once. Total class act the whole way through. Having watched that documentary, the other thing that really stood out to me, and it's something that Papa brought up and you talked about too, Ronnie Lott is lost to time. People forgot what an absolute one-man wrecking crew of a football player he truly was. And, it feels like when you're around the 49ers the way that you and I've been, you get a lot of Ronnie Lott put in your face and you're like, oh yeah, Ronnie Lott, he's good for memories, he's good for this, he's good, but no, dude. Ronnie Lott was a football murderer of the first degree. He was just the baddest man on the planet. And I don't know why, we wax poetic about Lawrence Taylor and some other defensive players, and Reggie White, even though he's passed, is still talked about with like a hushed reverence. Ronnie Lott deserves all of that, man. He was just a freight train. And this documentary really finally puts the light on him that he deserves. Because look, we know how modern football is. The camera cuts between the guy who caught the ball, the guy who threw the ball, and the head coach. So it's always Jerry, Joe, and Walsh, or Jerry, Steve, and Seifert. Ronnie Lott deserved as many close-ups as any dude who has ever played football. God almighty, he was just watching this documentary for some of the highlights of him alone is worth it.
The guy was the ultimate hitter. It's funny. We're in an era now where they're trying to make the game safer and this and that. And Ronnie's hits, every single one of them would be a penalty. Every single one of them. His hit on Icky Woods is amazing. Is legendary.
I watched it with Jillian. I watched it with Jillian. She's like, they used to play a little harder, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ronnie Lott was the ultimate intimidator. I mean, in an era that had a bunch of them, right? There was Joey Browner, there was David Fulcher, there was Steve Atwater, there was Chuck Cecil, there were Kenny Easley. There was a bunch of thumpers in his era, and he was the guy. He was the guy. And when you think about, it's funny. I was making notes watching the documentary, and it kind of hit me. It's like the Niners in 80. Damon, were kind of like where the Niners are now, in that, was Walsh the guy? Yeah, Walsh was the guy. Was Joe the guy? Yeah, Joe's the guy. Has he won a ring yet? No, but he's the guy. But their defense wasn't championship caliber. And then they added the 81 draft class, and you got fearsome Ronnie Lott, and maybe one of the greatest players that ever was. Who just another injured guy that was impacted by injury, but Eric Wright and Carlton Williamson and Dwight Hicks was a
Eric Wright
agent.
got totally left out of that doc, by the way. He got no shine.
Eric Wright is one of the greatest corners the league's ever seen. I mean, he absolutely is. He's had a pelvic injury and he had his career cut short. But the point is just this, is that Ronnie Lott was a fearsome defender. And the Niners right now with Shanahan, they get the right head coach. Purdy, they get the right quarterback. What they need is Ronnie. They need Haley. They need Eric Wright. They need fearsome defenders. And they don't have fearsome defenders or enough of them. And that's
look at it this way. Their most fearsome defenders.
Adding fearsome defenders.
Their most fearsome defenders spent most of this season injured. That's what really hurt them this year more than anything else.
They need new fearsome defenders. I mean, that's what the Niners got in 86 with Charles Haley. They got a Hall of Fame fearsome defender. And 5 years prior to that, they added Ronnie, and Ronnie was a Hall of Fame fearsome defender. And I know it sounds crazy because it's like, yeah, of course you need that. But that's what the Niners right now need. They need to go find themselves a couple of truly, not just guys who play the position that they need filled. They need some fearsome defenders, and they got to go unearth those guys. What's up to Lynch and the scouts to do it?
My last thought on this documentary was, everything needs its own moment in time. And a lot of things that happen in that moment in time would not have happened in another moment in time. I do not believe the 1980 and transitioning from Bill Walsh to considering retirement to the mind games, which, you look back at it and you can say, what a great plan. But you could kind of tell he was doing some real experimenting and soul searching at the time between Joe and Steve and which way to go. Joe resurrected his career in 88 by winning that Super Bowl because Steve was breathing down his neck, right? And that could not have happened in a social media era. I really don't think so, Larry. I think that the outside noise might have gotten to that team a little bit. And Bill Walsh would not have been appreciated in time as much as you would have had a full vocal camp of people saying this is an egomaniacal coach who is way too into tinkering and messing with something that works. They would have been shredded in modern media in a way that they were, I think, questioned and criticized. But one of the most salient things I've ever heard Steve Kerr say to me when we were doing weekly interviews was, Damon, when you wanted to get away from the media when I was playing for the Bulls, all you needed to do was put the newspaper down. You stopped reading the newspaper and you got away from the media. There is no getting away from the media anymore. There just isn't. And I really wonder if that team, with all of its talent, with all of its genius, would have had the oxygen it needed to breathe in the modern world. I don't think it would have. It was a moment in time that they needed to be that forward-thinking, experimental, to have a quarterback controversy without it being a suffocating blanket on the entire franchise.
Well, Walsh wouldn't have welcomed it to town. I mean, Walsh literally was like, we have what some would say is a quarterback controversy. You know, it's like,
right.
Nobody, right. No way he would have done that now because everything's so big and there's so much talk around the game. But you know, I mean, it was an incredible moment in time.
It was. And it's look, the sepia tone memories are just fantastic. Some of the behind the scene footage. I mean, like, dude, Eddie D fired Bill Walsh a lot. It just
that came across.
Never went through. Yeah.
How angry Eddie D was, and how rough it was to be his coach. He was. It sounds, the more you hear about Eddie D in this documentary, the more he sounds like Joe Lacob. You know, He sounds like a guy who meddled. He sounds like a guy that maybe got too involved. He sounds like a guy that probably threw tantrums and got verbal and maybe was difficult on his coach and his GM. So, you know, it's part of it. It's part of it. You know, Eddie described it as he had a little Youngstown in him. That's how Eddie described it. But yeah,
well, I've always said the official bird of Ohio State is asshole, or just the state of Ohio. There's a lot of assholes who come out of Ohio. They really are. So yeah, I think he was one of them.
Well, I mean, bottom line is, you know, the Niners needed Eddie's fire to get over the top, and they may be lacking Eddie's fire right now. You know, Jed seems very content with making money and finishing second. And maybe that's unfair, or maybe it's totally fair. But that's what it appears to me. He seems very content with what he's got, and what he's got has not been very good as far as personnel. It's funny. It's like when people want to, you know, talk positively about the Niners, they can talk about what they've accomplished. But when you want to talk negatively about the Niners, it's easy to point to all the missed draft picks. And now we're going to find out. I mean, you're never in the same place. You're either getting closer to the destination or further away. And this year, at the end of the year, it appeared that the 49ers are getting further away from the Rams and Seahawks than they're getting closer to winning the Super Bowl. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, you know, they've got to do better in the draft. I mean, when was if you say who are the greatest players on the Niners right now, you start going through a who's list of all the old guys. It's Trent. Oh no, it's Kittle. No, it's CMC. No, it's Fred. You know, it's like, well, wait a second. What do these guys all have in common? They're all been around for a long time.
There's only one young player who I think is who's rightfully put himself in the conversation, and it's Upton Stout.
Purdy.
But he's still got a long way to go. And here's the thing, and watch Upton Stout have a little bit of a sophomore slump, because that's what happens. You know, he is playing one of the single hardest positions there is in sports. So don't be angry at him and give a trash can emoji when he lets up a touchdown in week 2 next year. You know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Speaking of next year, Larry, and, you know, Roger Craig goes from international man of mystery to internationally known with his Hall of Fame thing. Speaking of international, it is so funny. The guy one of the engineers that I'm working with ShowUs.tv here, knows an awful lot of people inside the NFL. And we were talking to a gentleman who is a huge part of international choices. And this was on Monday when Jed York was just one floor up from us, talking about how, you know, Mexico could absolutely be on the 49ers radar this year, a trip to Mexico City. And so when this guy who is a huge part of the international coordination is just leaning over the railing and we're talking real quick, I say, look, man, I'm not going to, give it up or anything, but can you tell me? Can you tell me if they're going to Mexico City or not? And he's like, no, I can't leak anything. You know that. He's like, I can't leak anything. The NFL, is so desirous of controlling its own information. I can't leak anything. I'm like, okay, if you can't tell me where they're going, could you please tell me whether or not, if you are a big fan of tacos, you'll be happy with their international destination? And he said to me, he's like, you can get a taco anywhere. You can get a taco in Australia. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You can get a taco anywhere. But he clued me in right there. You can get a taco in Australia. He did give me a clue. I was just not smart enough of a detective to pick it out until the announcement yesterday that the dingo ate all our babies, throw a shrimp on the Barbie. The 49ers are going to be going to the Melbourne cricket. It's like
Melbourne
the
cricket ground.
Field of cricket. Yeah, it's like the Wrigley Field of cricketing. And that's where the 49ers are going to play the Rams. It is a Rams home game, so the Niners will not be losing a home game yet to international play.
There it is right
but
there.
The 49ers are going to Australia, Larry, and all I'm going to ask you right now is you want to get a shit ton of frequent flyer miles? Do you want to go? You, me, Bondi Beach, Little Australia? Are you in?
I mean,
I've never been to Australia. I've always kind of wanted to go.
I've never been to Australia. I'll say this. I had a rough time on the 5-hour flight to Philly. I don't know, man. I mean, how long is the flight? How long is the flight?
It's like a 22-hour flight. It's like a full day in an airplane to go to Australia, I think.
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I'd have to. Is there a deck you can walk around or something? I can't sit in a seat for 22 hours.
All I'm going to tell you is that you're going to make sure you want to upgrade yourself to at least business class. You do not want to be in coach to Australia.
In the middle seat.
That's a very, very expensive trip. But, maybe your friends at Sharp Corners, if they really want to sponsor a hell of a wake up, that could be the one. I know that we're on down there. Oh, Larry, I got to share a compliment.
Well, they were supposedly the Niners are going to Australia and Mexico City, according to Mayoko.
Also, what is happening? So, I was joking around saying the 49ers did lose a home game, even though it's a Rams home game, because the Niners so thoroughly take over SoFi Stadium. That's like a home game for them. So even though they didn't lose a home game, they have lost a home game. Well, the person I was talking to says they are still probably going to lose a home game, and there could be dos tripos internacionales for the San Francisco 49ers this year, which would probably then have them clocking in on a brand new miles traveled in an NFL season record. So
I got to go to Mexico City, though. I mean,
if it's happening in Mexico City, we got to go. We're going to a game in Mexico City, 100%.
We got to go.
100%.
Mexico City. Mexico City is I've watched, there's a BBC special on the busiest cities in the world, and they go through Mexico City, and Mexico City is just, first of all, it's sinking into the mantle of the earth by about 1.5 inches every year. It also has,
aren't we all
unbelievable sewage issues where they've had, I believe, either German or American.
You know what? Here's the thing, Larry.
Scientists that go and invented this new, like, underground, like, basically, junk center or whatever you want to call it. It's just basically a place to put sewage. So because there's so much, so much waste and all kinds
of. It's one of the most populated people.
It's the most populated. It's the most
places in the planet, and
the worst air quality in the world.
Here's what I do know, Larry, and here's a little lesson that I think a lot of these media members in here learned this week. Don't think you know about a place until you've been to a place. The last 3 days of Pat McAfee shows have basically been a mea culpa that I really got San Francisco all wrong because I've been watching Fox News. There is one media member, Clay Travis, who is talking about, I'm stepping over heroin needles. Bullshit. No, you're not. We cleaned those up this week for sure. I'm not saying there's not heroin needles here.
We
cleaned those up
We cleaned that up this week.
We got that right this week. So
you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is that it is freezing around the country. The weather stinks around the country. The weather in Northern California is great. Now, it can be, it can be 48 degrees and rainy this time of year, but it's, we're getting like that kind of early spring. Like we're probably going to get like a lot of rain in March, right? So it's been glorious. And it's funny, I'm walking down the street around the Moscone Center where Radio Row is, and I see this woman walks by me and she's like, "Are you kidding me?" I hear her on her cell phone. She's like, "It's 14 degrees in Cincinnati. I'm wearing my tank top. I'm going for a jog. I love it here. I may stay." So it's, the weather here. Chase Sr., who is, a jogger and, he's a guy who likes to, put on his track shoes and run around. He's like, "Yeah, I ran through the Ghirardelli Square, down by the bridge, down along the water." And then he's like, "This is truly a beautiful city." And it's like, of course, San Francisco's skyline is right there with the greatest skylines of all time. It is being used as a political football to some degree, but it's also being used as a political football because it is dirty and drugs. And you don't see this kind. I mean, I was in New York. I've been in Boston in the last year. You don't see the layer of random drug use like you see in San Francisco. It's really, really bad.
But San Francisco and Larry, in the documentary, they were talking about how weird it was in the 80s here too, and how San Francisco has always will always have 8% to 12% visible grime. It's just part of this city. It's part of the tapestry. This is a boom or bust town.
No, but
there's no doubt we went through a bust.
You can't tell me this.
COVID, and now it's coming out of boom.
You can't tell me this because I lived here. You can't tell me about how it's just always been this way because it hasn't always been this way. The city used to be far cleaner than it was. The area down by where KMBR used to be, that area by where that Safeway is, by the Bay Club, by that area used to be really, really nice. I'm not talking about yesteryear. I'm talking about when my wife and I were dating and she worked in the Embarcadero. We'd go sit in that park and have lunch, and it was really, really nice. Now it is random, filled with major drug problems, guys taking deuces in the park. It's gotten overrun. Now it's a city. Now, this is urban blight is not individual just to San Francisco, but this, under London breed, this thing went way south, and
absolutely,
it's coming back
absolutely.
Under Daniel Leary.
Look, it is there. This city has its problems, but they have been so thoroughly magnified by an overzealous media trying to say all these problems. But there's no doubt.
Well, it's because of Gavin Newsom and his potential run for president.
A city that is based on tolerance absolutely started tolerating the intolerable. That is San Francisco's fatal flaw. They have tolerated the intolerable. And I think that Daniel Leary has done a very good job in the meantime, if not fixing these problems, cosmetically fixing these problems for Super Bowl week. And I hope that the progress that has been made clearly downtown continues to go in the right direction long after the Super Bowl is gone.
Well,
and I actually think that the
law and order
coming is going to help forward that.
It's about law and order. I mean, you had basically mass break-ins in the city because the mayor wasn't just talking she was going to defund the police. She actually fucking did defund the police. And then so you had huge amounts of break-ins. You told everybody that you weren't going to prosecute crime. So guess what you got? Crime. Right. So guess what happened? As soon as the leases ran out for the businesses that were in these neighborhoods that you just allowed crime to exist and you almost invited it, they all said, "Oh, wait a second, we're going to leave." So all of the corporate money left. If you go walk through downtown San Francisco, you're going to see big murals in the wall, in the windows instead of buildings and offices because they're just being covered up to show to hide the vacancies. I have buddies who sell commercial real estate who almost had to redo their entire career and change markets because commercial real estate in downtown San Francisco is so plentiful that they couldn't possibly get any kind of a marketable price for it. So, it's now things are coming around because they finally realized, hey, guess what? We kind of need these stores. We kind of need the tax base. And then the other thing that's happening is that everywhere you go now, like you don't have, in the old days, you had to come to San Francisco if you wanted to do major like Christmas shopping and that kind of thing. You don't need to do that. If you're in Marin, you can shop there. If you're in the East Bay, you can shop there. If you're down in the peninsula, you could shop at Stanford or Stone Ridge or anywhere else. You don't have to come to San Francisco. It was always kind of and San Francisco acted like people needed to come here, and they don't. And so they don't come here anymore.
I mean,
they come in and out.
I can't remember the last time I think it's very important to go and spend your money at brick and mortar places, but Amazon is so convenient. It really is that people fall into that. So, look, it was a really good week for San Francisco, and I'm happy because I live here, and I've lived here for 20 years, and I have seen it better than it was. Certainly fall down, and it feels like it's getting back up, and that makes me very, very happy. I love this town. It's the town that my children were born in, that my wife is from, and I'm going to die in San Francisco. A lot of people tell me, Damon, you weren't born in San Francisco. Well, fuck you. I'm going to die here. That's how much I love the place. A lot of people leave. I'm not. I love it here. So I'm happy that it was a really good week for San Francisco. I really, really am. Couple of other Niner things, Larry, before we just kind of open it up to further discussion. How about Shanahan finishing last in Coach of the Year voting? And I saw that fans were pretty upset about that. It's funny. You had a certain portion of 49er fans earlier in the year saying Kyle should be fired. And then at the end of the year, they're upset that he didn't get the Coach of the Year honors. Like, make up your mind on the guy, please. I actually think it's a little bit of a sign of respect that Kyle finished dead last. He is so respected in his fraternity that he doesn't even get credit for being really good when he shouldn't. And honestly, I don't think Coach of the Year means tiddlywinks to Kyle Shanahan. He has but one thing left to accomplish in his career, and we all know what that is. It's to hold up the Lombardi trophy and say, it's official, we're number one. That's it. That's the last accolade he wants, he's pursuing, he needs. So I don't think anyone should be that upset about it. It is odd, though, that he finished dead last considering what they went through, who they lost, and where they still finished in the overall arc of this season. They made the Final Four in the NFC. They should have been left for dead.
I mean, the thing about it is the whole thing of manager of the year, coach of the year, it's all faulty, right? It's based on, okay, what was our premise, and then what's the conclusion? And the premise was that the Niners had awesome players and that, to go in an easy schedule. And so that what they did winning 12 games was not that impressive. Where the premise for New England was, hey, they were a 4-13 team that came out and had a great turnaround season. And so, the perception was, wow, Vrabel did it all. But in reality, they had a really great draft, and New England spent the most money of any team in the NFL in free agency, where the Niners spent no money in free agency, the least, I think, or 30th. They were 30th. There were two teams. I think two teams spent less than the Niners. But the premise was that the Niners were great. But I do think that Kyle Shanahan got hosed because think about it. What matters the most in an NFL season? It's how your team is playing down the stretch. And then look what the Niners had. They had no fucking receivers. Kittle was done. They had CMC, a mediocre line, a quarterback that people think is not that great. Their front seven was just a total mash unit. No Fred, no Bosa, no McKell, no talent. You had guys signed off the street. You had a bunch of rookie DBs. I mean, come on, man. The way the Niners were playing at the end of the year for them to beat the Eagles in Philly in the playoffs, I mean, yes, Ben Johnson changed the culture in Chicago, and I would have given him my vote because of that. Vrabel got a lot of votes because they went from 4-13 to 13-4 or whatever, and I get that. But if you really want to say, who was doing it with less, nobody was doing it with less by the end than Brock Purdy with turf toe, no Ayuk, no Debo, no Kittle at the very end, no receivers to speak of, one running back, mediocre line, no pass rush, 20 sacks, the fewest sacks of any team in football by 6. No Fred Warner, a bunch of mash unit linebackers that will never play again in the NFL, and a bunch of rookies on the back end. I mean, come on, man. Shanahan, this was easily Shanahan's best coaching job, and he deserved it, but he was never going to get it. I never thought he would get it because the perception is they have Kittle, they have Trent, they have CMC, they have Warner, they have Bosa. These guys are all going to the Hall of Fame. The Niners are loaded. Yeah, but you know what? That team was all gone pretty much by the end. So, and they were still playing good ball. So, yeah, Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. I'll say this about this. Kyle Shanahan doesn't give a crap about this. No. He would trade every possible individual recognition for that Lombardi. He wants that 6th Lombardi. He's all about it. So this doesn't bother him at all. But if you really Kyle, think about it, he did kind of get hosed.
If you told Kyle he had to give his entire year's salary back to the 49ers, but at the end of that year, you'll be Super Bowl champion, he'll be like, do you want that in cash or check? I mean, there's one thing left for him to do. He knows it. And I really hope that he does it here. I really do. But it's going to take a hell of a draft class and a hell of an offseason for that to happen because, like you said, the NFC West feels like it's moving in a little bit of an opposite direction of where the 49ers finish. So it's going to take a hell of an offseason. We're going to ask everyone to like and subscribe because Larry and I are going to get you through that hell of an offseason that's about to happen. So thank you for being here once again. It's great to have you. The other thing that I think we got to talk about, and this could just be giving lip service to a friend. I don't know how much it really matters, but when asked about reunions, Christian McCaffrey, by the way, I had Ed McCaffrey on the show this week, and he said that Christian finished this year feeling as good on his body as any season he's come out of the NFL, which is astonishing considering the overuse that this team has in Christian McCaffrey. So hopefully that is a good sign for him next year. But McCaffrey is talking about how he wants a Debo reunion. He wants the Niners to bring back Debo. So let me just ask you, Larry. I didn't have to ask you. I knew your answer, and I think it's my answer as well. I'm not interested in Debo either.
Well,
sorry,
there's
Christian.
no room in football personnel for any kind of softness or warmness or any warm feelings you have in regards to personnel. Burn those thoughts. And I looked at this the other day and I saw the vision of it. I'm like, because I'm looking at a list of who's going to be a cap casualty. And guess who was on the list? Eric Armstead. He's got, he's a Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner. He only had 16 pressures this year. He's totally not the player that he was. He's not strong enough to be a real every down guy inside. He's not fast enough to be any kind of a threat outside. And he's got 16 pressures, but he makes a lot of money and he's hurt a lot. So no to Eric Armstead. Dre Greenlaw, supposedly going to be a cap casualty in Denver. He had like 5 other injuries that cost him games this year. He played 58% of the snaps. He only played 8 games. No on Dre Greenlaw. Javon Hargrave's going to be a cap casualty. The Niners still need an interior rusher. He can be a little bit of an interior rusher. No on Javon Hargrave. Debo Samuel is cut loose by Washington. He's a free agent, and there's rumblings that he could come back. No on Debo Samuel. It's like no, 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 and no. The Niners already last year leaned on this crutch of yesteryear. Like we made an evaluation 3 years ago, and now every injury they had this summer, they brought in, here's Kendrick Bourne, here's this guy, here's that guy. It's all these retread guys that they've had before because they don't want to coach anybody or they don't want to take any chances. No, stop looking backwards to guys that used to be able to do it and go find the next group of guys that can do it. Go find the next Dre Greenlaw. Go find the next Eric Armstead. Go find the next Javon Hargrave, the next Debo Samuel. Do not be sentimental. There's no room in personnel for sentimentality and going back. And yet there's so many freaking soft fans. There's so many freaking soft media that at the I know Debo. Oh, I know Dre Greenlaw. I know Armstead. I'll be able to write a story about that. Fuck you. Fuck your story. And fuck them coming back. I don't give a shit about your goddamn story.
Well, by the way,
I want to win, and you don't look back. Name me one player ever where a team has said, you know what? That guy was great here years ago. We're going to bring him back, and they resulted in a championship. I cannot think of one.
It's hard. It's hard to just flip through the
For
mental
any
Rolodex
team.
and figure that
Any
out.
team that was used to be a Bronco, now he's back, and they won it all. Used to be a Cowboy, now he's back, and they won it. No, it doesn't happen that way. Old players, this is the arc. Okay? I know in baseball you had Barry Bonds had this arc, and then, another arc. No. There is no such thing as the second arc. In football, when you've crested the hill, you're getting worse by definition. Do not go and get that guy and bring him back.
In the Niners documentary, you saw, and it hurt Joe, but he said that Bill Walsh started treating him icier at the end. You could feel Bill Walsh severing that relationship because it was time to make hard personnel decisions. And that's what you got to be in this league. That's what you got to be in this league. So everything you just said, I agree with you.
Did you
I agree with you thoroughly, man.
The Montana
shall we
doc.
hop into some supers? And before we hop into supers, Larry, let me just
Montana doc. Wait a second. The Montana doc. George Seifert told Joe Montana to not be in the locker room when the team came off the field while he was on the team. So as far as I'm concerned, George Seifert, stepped way beyond what he should have. I mean, I understood Steve was trying to assert leadership. Joe was there. It was difficult. But you're going to tell the greatest quarterback of all time, the guy who basically took you from the outhouse to the penthouse, and you're going to tell him to be scarce in the locker room simply for the comfort of others? I mean, that was the low point of low points for the 49ers. Shame on George Seifert for doing that, by the way. Anyway, we can get to, you want to get to some supers? Let's do some supers here. We got supers. Here we go. Blood Moon in
Larry,
the house.
I can't hear you anymore. You've totally glitched out on my end.
Really? Let me see. Let me ask the audience here.
I can't hear you, Larry.
Can you guys hear me? I can hear myself, and I can hear Damon just fine. Reboot. Someone says reboot. Okay, I'll reboot. I'll be back.
Yeah, I think Larry just fell off right there. I thought he was glitching. I couldn't tell if it's glitching on just my end or on his end or on your end. Anyway, it looks like we've lost Larry for a little bit. So let's hop into some supers. Absolutely. Thank you very much. We start with Blood Moon saying, Irvin's comments on BA ring true. Check it out. The colossal fuck up as we waited for Schwartz and lost Raheem to Arizona. Per Diana Rossini, he's sitting out. Well, that's the thing. Schwartz is going to step away and take a year off. He's still under contract with the Cleveland Browns, so he's not going to be someone that you can just hire. But yeah, that's obviously sour grapes in Cleveland, no doubt about that. We go to Spasmatic 123. Is that what I'm looking at? Spazimac. F you, Larry. Niners are going nowhere next year, but reasons to keep Mac when he can be traded for picks or players. Look, tread lightly when it comes to trading Mac Jones. If you get the haul for him, the absolute haul for him, you go ahead and you do it. There you go. There you are back, Larry.
Let me see, make sure I forgot our, where's our bottom thing here? Where is it?
What are you looking for?
The wrap that says our names. Our normal.
Larry, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you see me?
Dude, you look a little. You're freezing on me, anyways. You're glitching a little bit. Let's just try to get through these supers.
Okay, let's do that. Okay. Where are we on this one? F you, Larry. This is
we're just 2 in. F you, Larry.
F you, Larry. Niners are going nowhere next year. No reason to keep Mac when he can be traded for picks or players. I think they got to move Mac as well. I do. Fuji Simeon, congrats to Roger Craig on making the Hall of Fame. Does Eddie D or Ronnie Lott introduce him at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony in Canton? Hope Seattle loses. I think Eddie D. Eddie D.
Yeah, I wonder who Roger picks to induct him to do his introduction. That'll be interesting.
I know he was very tight with Jamie Williams. They were both from Davenport, Iowa, and so maybe it'll be Jamie. Fuji Simeon says, hope Jeff Bezos buys the Seahawks, and like he did with Washington, fire almost everyone in the front office and coaching staff, only way Seattle declines. Yeah, somebody's going to buy the Seahawks and fire John Schneider. That'll be the ticket. Too much sauce. Kay Adams is the most talented media figure around. Yikes. Joking. That York interview was a brutal watch. She needs to take lessons from Krueger. Oh, thank you on that.
All I can tell you is that Kay Adams is very popular here. She is absolutely a beautiful woman. The quality of her interviews or the softball nature of them is why everyone books an interview with her. There's no hard questions. She's not pitching inside on anybody.
Yeah. At least not intentionally, maybe accidentally. Fuji says, was I say glad McAfee and others gave San Francisco its flowers. Happy to call San Francisco home. Yeah, like any other major city, it has issues, but so does Oakland, Baltimore, and Detroit. Sure, SI or what does it say? Sure, SI is an eyesore, but it has produced Larry. Ha ha ha. Oh, I got you. Go Cats, get them Cats. Go get them Cats. Go. Got to do a drive-by on SI. Got to do a drive-by on SI. The Surge Show. To show the character Roger has, well, I saw him at Safeway and asked if he can mail me an autograph because I was working, and he mailed me a signed portrait. Wow. Yeah, lots of people would just blow that off. Not Roger. Roger is a
seriously
first-class guy.
I wonder how many people I gave my email to this week who will blow me off.
Fuji says, no love lost between Jed and Santa Clara mayor and city. Joseph Ernberg, great show, guys. If they re-sign Debo, I think it's time for a full-blown reset. At age 25, I don't think I will ever experience a Super Bowl win. Go Seahawks. Ernberg, see you at the gym. See what kind of weight you're throwing around. Fuji says, wow, Australia and possibly Mexico City as well next year. Wouldn't that be something? That'd be incredible. Fuji says, tell Clay Travis a real eyesore in SF is SI. Ha ha. Go Cats.
Just a lot of St. Ignatius drive-bys on this show. Always from Fuji. I mean, Fuji's just taking out St. Ignatius with every other super.
Yeah. You know what? I would say, I think it's safe to say that SI has bought real estate in Fuji's melon. Fuji's melon is, if you'd be a great job, if I ever leave broadcasting, is be a real estate agent inside Fuji's head. Because you could sell some great SI real estate there. We got this one from Spazzy Mac. Is that what it says? Spazzy Mac. Larry, I'm very proud to hear you being honest about the dirty city, SF, which I grew up going to. And it's sad that grown men, including Damon, will endlessly defend solely for political reasons. Go Pats. I don't know. First of all,
dude,
Damon's
I'm not defending this town for solely political reasons.
He's living in the city and he's proud to live there. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And you know what? It is beautiful compared to other places. But when you've been here the whole time,
here's the thing.
You know how much more
be the Tenderloin
clean. But here's the thing about it. It used to be the city used to be rougher. To be completely honest, it was rougher. It used to be you would have a better chance of getting your ass kicked than you do now. Now it's safer, but now it's more random. See, now you're safer in that you're not going to get beat up walking through the Western Addition, but you're not as safe because random druggies are going to walk up to you on any street at any time. That's the difference. The city is still a great city. It's a world-class city. It's a beautiful city. There's for every dumpy corner, there's 15 great corners. Urban blight is not special or individual to San Francisco. It just is. It has more to do with the time than it has to do with the place. Fuji Simeon, off topic. West San Francisco, the Richmond, Land's End, and the Sunset and Twin Peaks are city suburbs, whereas downtown Tenderloin and Mission District get a lot of flack. Yeah, I mean, first of all,
well,
the Sunset District is more crowded than it used to be because people have realized that, hey, my home is worth $1.7 million, and so I'm now going to hollow out my garage. I'm going to build another apartment, and so there's all kinds of extra units and grandfather units and that kind of thing. So it's harder to park. But
look,
other than that,
Larry, you're glitching out on me every other thing here.
I think that's you, dude, because
I'll just say this. There's no city in the world where the haves and the have-nots are as on top of each other as they are right here.
Yeah. I mean, San Francisco is the only city where you could walk downtown and see a line for a soup kitchen on this side of the street and a line for an Asian fusion, vegetarian spot just as long on the other side of the street. I mean, it's just the way it is. Thomas Selman, I'm a Georgia boy and love the city. Going back in July with my wife, doing Carmel too, hitting Sam's Chowder House as well. Can't wait. Oh yeah, come on, it's a great spot. I'll tell you. You know what is a great spot? Go to Alta Plaza Park, lay a blanket, and just sit there and enjoy the sunshine in the summertime. Fuji says, I hate when outside media call the city San Fran. Yeah, that is annoying. San Fran, Frisco, but San Fran's even more annoying in some ways. We got this
Here's
one.
The thing. It's when outside media does it, they don't know any better. It's when local media does it that pisses me off.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, all those things are kind of ridiculous. Do Boston people get upset when we call it Beantown? Probably. Chi-Town for Chicago people.
They do.
They don't like that. We got this one from Joseph Ernberg. Debo and Armstead back equals Kyle and John fired. Yeah, now if you're going to go back, it's not going to work. We have this one from Barry who says flights from Memphis to Sydney are $2K, or does that say 2K? In 2 years, Mary and I plan
it's expensive.
to sell the house and move to San Diego with my son and his amazing disabled vet support. Housing high, but worth it. We gotta hit SoFi for a Niners Rams game. Yeah, San Diego's a great town. Great town. You can't be upset with San Diego. Fuji says, off topic, I would love a Larry Krueger what grinds my gears segment about San Francisco sports and the San Francisco city itself, like the Family Guy Peter Griffin sketch. Okay. I could do that. We have this one from Fuji. How bad will the substation be, or substation bit affect 49er free agency? That is a TBD, because they were joking about it. But here's the bottom line. They're joking about it, but there's always a little truth in the jokes, which are why there's some edginess to it, which is why I think the Niners better come out and do something to disprove it before free agency, or they may get shut out. Barry says, I've visited San Francisco once in the Navy years ago. It was great then, and it looks to be amazing now. I'm stunned at the Treasure Island development. Oh, yeah. I mean, Treasure Island is huge. Did I tell you that Dave Softy Mahler told me he took the wrong turn and he wound up on the Bay Bridge going to Oakland? I said, did you get off at Treasure Island? He's like, no.
Larry, you are glitching out every other sentence. I can't hear you anymore.
Really? I don't know. I can see you, but I think it's probably your connection. Blood Moon says Roman Sapolu hired by the 49ers, son of Jesse Sapolu. I did see that. Roman Sapolu has been hired by the Niners. All right, that is going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to our good friends at Habbas Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. HabbasLaw.com on the web. If you need a good lawyer, HabbasLaw.com is for you. 1-800-INJURED. They're great attorneys. And, the insurance companies won't pay. Habbas Law knows the tricks of the trade. They make them pay. 1-800-INJURED. If you want to win, HabbasLaw.com on the web. 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Damon, I'll give you the final word before we bolt for the door.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been having an awful lot of trouble hearing you over the last 10, 15 minutes of this show, and I think it's on our side here in the media center. But all I can tell you is that the nicest compliment I got this week, Larry, was from Greg Cosell, who says that he watches our show at least once a week. He is a fan of ours. This is, I think, one of the best NFL minds out there. He likes you. He likes me. He likes us together, and he thinks that our strongest suit is we don't pretend to know everything. So we actually say things like, I don't know. And he's like, that means you guys are smart and good at this. So that was a really nice compliment from someone that I really respect in this room. So I want to thank Greg Cosell for watching and everyone else who watched today too. We'll be back to normal this time again next week. Larry, thanks so much. I don't know if you're planning on coming down here again today. If you do, maybe we'll bump into each other. And if not, we'll be back together on Monday.
Fuji Simeon says, looking forward to a Nashville Super Bowl. And one last one. We have this one from James Foster. Armstead had more sacks than Jalen Carter. Wow. Yeah, but I'm telling you, 16 pressures on the year. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Damon. Thanks to all of you.
I'd rather have Jalen Carter.
I'd rather have Jalen Carter as well. Peace.